No mai, haere mai. Welcome to the Maxim Institute podcast. My name is Jason Heal. I'm the Communications Manager at Maxim Institute, and this is our weekly short-form podcast. These podcasts are released in tandem with our weekly column and are a chance for you to hear in-depth from the column's author about some of the thinking that went into producing their final piece. Today we talk to Maxim researcher Maryanne Spurdle about her column. Maryanne, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Jason.
Yeah, very first time. It's great to have you.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Well, we are talking about your first column, recent first column for Maxim, Don't Wait for the Finance Minister and Millionaires to Save Us. A great column. What kind of inspired you maybe to write on this topic for your first column?
Aside from the rich listers who suddenly felt the need to be taxed more.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that a bit later, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the hook, but it kind of prodded something that is one of my passions, and that is there are a lot of people doing really good work on the ground. I've worked for a number of nonprofits. I've seen it firsthand. And not only are they under the radar.
Yeah, very under the radar in some cases.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
But they don't actually get the credit for doing stuff that everybody expects someone else to do in the central government.
Yeah.
So when somebody rocks up and says government should be doing more on anything really.
Yeah. You particularly mentioned education, law and order, and healthcare, which you can't really have a charity doing law and order in some ways, can you?
Well, you can't have them enforcing law and order. Yeah. But why do we need law and order?
Yeah.
What are the problems that
What's
are causing
the underlying?
There are hundreds of charities in New Zealand that are addressing the kind of problems that would actually reduce law and order. Yeah. So we're talking about people caring about people. Yeah. Not talking about infrastructure. That's a whole nother topic. Yeah. But in those areas, the government can spend more on things, generally does, more and more on mental health and other things, and we're not seeing results. Yeah. So for people to come along and go, we want to fix things. Yeah. If you want to fix things, I wouldn't recommend that direction. Yeah.
It's diminishing returns, right? The more you put in, the less you get out.
Well, when you look at those graphs, yes, it looks very much like that. Yeah. Because it's all about what the money's being spent on, how it's being managed, and how the people who are doing the work are being managed. Yeah. Yeah. So when you've got
it's about the bureaucracy and the bits in between, the work getting done and people telling, the management and that.
I mean, bureaucracy has its place. Yeah. But there are some areas where you can see it's dragging things down. Yeah. And the question is, can things be done differently? Well, they are being done differently. I've seen great successes on the ground with people helping other people. Yeah. And it's not that it's easy work. It's hard. It requires a lot of commitment, especially from the people who found those organizations. And they need real community around them. So my passion is to see those communities built up. Yeah. And people understand that there are people in their communities who are doing great things, and you yourself would benefit from coming alongside them and helping them. You'll be inspired. Yeah. You'll see change. Yeah. You'll actually feel hopeful that we can make a difference. Yeah. I don't think anybody's ever felt hopeful after a government budget or after any information that comes out about the
turning in their
results
tax bill or something like that,
or you go, what have we got for it? There's never been some kind of, great, we've cracked the problem moment ever. Yeah. But on the ground, you do see great work being done. Yeah.
And you see that impact right away almost, right? Immediately. Because it's in the coal face in many ways.
I mean, you could show up at any of those organizations, the ones I mentioned, and others. Whakapapa Tangata, I didn't put a link in there, but they're doing amazing work in South Auckland. Yeah. Talk to those people, and there will be inspiring stories. Yeah. The work itself isn't quick. There's no quick turnaround when it comes to what they're doing. They're in it for the long haul. Yeah. And that's another reason why government funding isn't great in those areas, is it changes. Yeah. Governments change, directions change, and so organizations that are heavily reliant on government funding, they have to read the weather, and they often have to pivot to go where the funding is. Yeah. Organizations that are kept afloat by a few hundred people giving, sometimes it's $20 a month, but they're regularly donating to something that they see as valuable. Yeah. those places, if they've got a regular donor base, they're able to hire staff.
Yeah.
They're able to invest in infrastructure and equipment and all the rest. If they've got a committed base, they have that security.
Yeah.
You can get much more money one-off from governments, and you may end up with years of funding. If you're doing what you're doing well, it can happen. There are some organizations that are doing great work and are in partnership with government agencies. But the real magic is when people recognize that something good is happening in their community, they support it, they're in it for the long haul, the people doing the work are in it for the long haul. Yeah. That's where you see real results.
Yeah. So I guess the takeaway is if you're a millionaire who wants to make a difference, maybe don't give it to the government.
I mean, you're going to have to.
Yeah.
And some of that's necessary, and some of it trickles down to do good work. There's a place for everything. But if you've got discretionary income and you're looking for somewhere to do good, I mean, give it directly to the organization. A better investment is to
go straight to where it's...
Yeah. And for not everybody's got that kind of spirit change, but everybody will have heard of, whether it's somebody promoting a CAP course or something like that. Tell people, about what works.
Yeah.
Have hopeful conversations about this is where good is being done, instead of getting bogged down in these conversations about, is the tax rate fair? Is the government doing enough? How long is a piece of string? We're never going to answer that question.
Exactly. Yeah.
We should spend more time talking about what is working and encouraging each other to back what is working.
Yeah. And as you pointed out earlier, what works and what's fair in terms of tax rate and investment and things, what actually works in giving to these organizations actually is also fair because it promotes better outcomes for society as a whole. Yeah, that's what's actually fair. It was funny this morning, Marcus, our colleague here, he pulled up a survey from a few election cycles back where they asked people, do the wealthy need to pay more in tax? And the majority, of course, said yes, they need to pay more in tax. Of course. And the follow-up question was, what do you think the tax rate should be? And most people chose tax rates that were actually lower than what they were paying. So the perception of, that we're always going to say, no, more. There's always going to be somebody saying it's not fair. Yeah. But that's really not the conversation we should be having. Yeah. What works? Yeah. Are we doing the best we can do with what we've got? What changes lives and brings hope? Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Maryanne. Thanks, Jason. Yeah, good convo. And now let's hear from Maryanne as she reads her column. A week before Grant Robertson unveiled his hefty election year budget, dozens of wealthy Kiwis made a plea for the government to tax them more. Given the timing, some pundits questioned their motives. I question their optimism. Look at spending on any government service and try to spot a correlation between more money and better outcomes. Start with education, law and order, or healthcare. You can find figures for these and more online at figure.nz. They're all case studies for the law of diminishing returns, not robust investments that you'd expect these savvy Kiwis to be backing. Why not promote a sure bet? As our many charitable citizens could tell them, community organizations are already supporting people in outstanding ways, and they need all the help they can get. Most are small and under the radar. New Zealand has more than 28,000 registered charities, but they have an outsized impact. Individually, we can't do anything to improve infrastructure, say, or defense, but in any arena where people care for the minds and bodies of other people, we don't have to wait for politicians to solve our problems. Concerned about affordable housing, food insecurity, or financial illiteracy, it's likely people at a local Mariah church are addressing that, and there's sure to be a charity that is. Operations like these are often largely, sometimes solely, funded by people and trusts who have a unified vision. Flip through their annual reports, chat with the CEO, or meet people who benefit from their services. Accountability levels are high wherever funding follows results, and there are plenty of ways to verify which charities should be grown or replicated. On a local Facebook group dedicated to frugal living, people often ask for budgeting advice or help getting out of debt. The most enthusiastic recommendations are for services like Christians Against Poverty, even if they're prefaced, as one actually was, don't let the name put you off. To ensure I wasn't overlooking endorsements for centralized services, I searched that group for mentions of wins. The first comment I found, quoting directly, was, "Never ever count on wins."
Don't get me wrong, we need to have a better WINS, a better Ministry of Education, a better health system. But we don't improve them by simply spending more. See, here's the magic of most grassroots organizations. The work is led by people who care about and know the people they're helping. This kind of leadership you can't buy and you can't fake. Centralized engines work best with predictable inputs and outputs, with operations that become less expensive at scale. People-to-people services do not scale well because we are neither uniform nor predictable. Systems that act like we are will be ineffective or wasteful, or both. The eternal debates about fair tax rates and pieces of the budget pie rage on. The winners may prove that their answer to a better New Zealand was correct, or, more likely, we'll be back here having the same conversation in 2026. This, on the other hand, is guaranteed. We can accomplish a lot more with a lot less when people put their hands and feet where their heart is.
Thanks for listening to the Maxim Institute podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us and keep up with the rest of our research and analysis of politics and policy in New Zealand, you can sign up on the homepage of our website to get our monthly forum email and invitations to future Maxim Institute events. You can search and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. From the team at Maxim, mā te wā. Goodbye for now.